Yes, indeed. The very poorly sounding Wookiee means one thing. We are back and we are live on this week's Freaky Friday. Yes, indeed. And it's going to be a very special Freaky Friday indeed, because we are going to be going all the way down under in our number 2 to catch up with Evan and Stephen Strong. Yes, we're getting close to the Solstice ceremony, ladies and gentlemen. Now, no Scotty Lopez today because he has been under the hammer when it comes to storms. So he's going to be joining me on Monday to come onto the show, tell us about how crazy it's been getting. But never fear, because Nacy is here. Yes, Nacy. So lots of love and energy out to Scotty and the family today. Can't be with us, but he'll be coming to hang out with us on Monday. How you doing, brother? Yeah, she'll be listening in right now. That'll definitely have excited her dopamine receptor system. Yes, indeedy. What have you been doing, Nacy? What have you been up to, man? I believe there is a bison burger en route to your location right now, right?
Me also before he gets here. So if I am not talking that much in the third hour, you would have a strong assumption that it's a bison burger.
Yes, indeed. So I want to give a big shout out to everyone over on the home of the Freaky Friday. Of course, is Truth Frequency Radio, tfrlive.com. And today we're also going out on YouTube. We're going out on Twitch. And like I say, we'll be joining forces with my good friends Evan and Stephen Strong in our number 2 of today's broadcast. And it'll almost be a pre-ceremony event. We'll be getting into everything that's going to be happening on and around the solstice with our alien ancestry. Before I head on over to the Wookiee Cave, Nacy, I'm really excited about not just today's show. I always love to speak to Evan and Stephen. But this solstice, this ceremony, this time of change that we're going through right now, as opposed to being full of fear, negative, like a lot of people are right now, I'm absolutely loving it, dude. I think it's the most exciting time to be alive. But what say you?
Well, I agree absolutely. You know, I always try to simplify things from positive, neutral, and negative. And if you are going to have the choice to be of any of those three, to me, it's a no-brainer. There's 2 of them that I absolutely would choose over negativity, and that's positivity or neutrality. And I know it's difficult to stay positive all the time, you know, but minimally be content or neutral, that's easy. Because in my experience, when you get caught up in the negativity, it's a spiral downward. And who likes to do that unless you can turn it into a dive and go on through to the other side?
Ooh, I like it. I like it, dude. So listen, the Wookiee Cave is very, very quiet right now. I'm going to head on over there, and you can get there by going to tfrlive.com/chat. Over there, we've got me, we've got our very attractive chatbot, Sophia. We've got one of our fellow hosts on the network, Lucky. We've got the amazing Bam, the brilliant Freeman, and the absolutely awesome Psycho Dave at 321. We've got lots of people tuning in on the website, over on TalkStream Live as well. Big shout out over there.
DJ Bison donated £2 through Super Chat. Been looking forward to being your burger for ages.
Oh, there you go. The Bison Burger. The DJ Bison is going to be on a burger very, very soon. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, DJ. Do you think Sophia would be a cricket burger eater?
Nah. I think she's just like a really kind of couple of lines of code, maybe. I think that's about it. Yeah.
Maybe the AI of her, when she gets to that point, her AI might go for the cricket burgers.
You never know, dude. You never know. So listen, we're going to be going down under very shortly. I know you're excited to speak to the guys today. I know Evan is equally excited that you're going to be here with the guys today as well. But this time that we're entering right now, Nacy, you speak a lot with people like Luna, Donnie, the mobs down in Australia. What is it for you at this time? What's going on right now for you, Nacy? Why is this time so special?
Well, if we break apart the cycle of the year, where, just for argument's sake, we're on a spherical orb going around the sun, and there's 4 pivotal points going around the sun. That's the equinoxes and the solstice. And as above, so below, the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, right now we are on the precipice of the winter solstice. I personally believe it already occurred because, when they talk about the calendar date being the 21st of December, but I really don't think that the Earth and the Sun really carry around a pocket calendar of any type whatsoever, and they'll align up when they align up. Because by definition, the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere is the longest night and the shortest day. So this is a time when my people, the Anishinaabe, would be sharing stories, legends, and the different mythos to help people, allegories for good behavior, good judgment, and how to do this and how to do that. So we're on the precipice of the coldest winter has came. And in the winter, you would be sitting in your big lodges, and you usually, maybe sometimes 3-4 days, might not leave the lodge because of the severity of the wilderness or outside. And so you had to do something. And this is when the families would pull out their moccasin games, or, they'd be doing a lot of their beading or their regalia work, for decorative ornamenting their clothes that they would pull out for special occasions and stuff. And my ancestors talk about longhouses that were 700-800 feet long and like 200 feet wide and like 3 stories tall. And they would have hundreds of people living inside them. And there would be some longhouses that were for special ceremonies, where they would have like what you call a powwow or such things, So it's a significant point of the measurement or the marking of the cycle. And so now we know that, hey, minimally, the days in the northern hemisphere are starting to get longer. Unfortunately, down under, the days are getting shorter. But that's how cycles go. They ebb and flow, and they come and go, and you just got to go with the flow.
So, Nacy, is there going to be any special ceremonies taking place with the Anishinaabe or any of the other Paleo-American groups,
Yeah, a lot of things that'll be happening is the big drum ceremony, is where there's different families that have the big, old traditional, powwow drums, and they would bring them out and they would feast them. And this goes with the whole discussion about an elder would come out and he would tell the story of the drum and the history of the people, and he would share things like that, and then there would be a giveaway. So then the host of the drum, they have taken, all of this time to collect things over the year, and then they would present gifts. People would come to these events bearing gifts, and what you would do is like a big roundhouse, and then you would grab a gift, whether it be something as simple as like a wawashkeshki wias, or a deer hide or deer meat, or or some people bring cloth or towels or blankets or quilts or hunting knives, hatchets, and then they'll just go around the room and pick somebody and present them with a gift. And then they would go with this individual to the outer edge of the dancing area, and then they would do a gift song, and then you would do a side step around the circle and, you know, acknowledge the giving, because this was one of the things that my people are known for, that you got your status within the tribe by what you gave, not what you owned.
A totally different way of thinking about things, isn't it? Totally back to front from what most people in the West are used to.
Yeah, well, the dominant society, when they learned about these ceremonies, they forbade them. They wouldn't let us do the, you know, on the West Coast, they call them a potlatch. You know, our people, we call it big drum ceremony, you know, but it was just something the Europeans didn't understand. You know, why are you guys giving everything away? You know, and it's like, why would you not? Isn't that like one of the, you know, if we're going to say that beyond the blessing of existing right now, is it not a blessing to give somebody a gift? You know, and this is one of the things that I teach in my household with my daughters. I didn't lie to them about Santa Claus. You know, it was a horrific ordeal when I learned about Santa Claus. Sorry, children, if you're any out there, close their ears quickly. You know, but we teach in this household the idea of giving as Santa Claus is to give anonymously. You're not giving to get the reward of like, oh, look at what I bought, so-and-so. You give because of the sake of giving. And then you just write Santa Claus on it, and you present it to somebody.
Yeah, Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without Santa Claus, a bit of Coca-Cola, mince pies, and of course, our Boxing Day that we have over here, Nacy. I know this amuses you that we have a Boxing Day, right?
Right. Well, I just think, you know, the joke of the United Kingdom and the coldness of some of them, that, you know, you guys think it funny that you give each other boxes and they're empty.
Yeah, you see, you've got us all wrong over here, dude. You've got us all wrong. So what are you intending to be doing come the 21st, 22nd, when we're all taking part in this online ceremony? Sacred Rocks and Artefacts. Nice.
I know.
Talk about uber woo.
Yes, I was really excited about it until I was informed on Thursday that on the 22nd, I have to present my tribal council, a thing I've been working on for the last 3 weeks. And so I'm probably going to try to catch it and listen to it on the side in the hotel room on the res.
It'll be the day before. It's on the 21st where you are. 21st, dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, most definitely I'll probably have it on the background, because I think a little birdie told me that he was going to be simulcasting it.
Yeah, there's myself. I'll be simulcasting it. We'll hear all about all the different channels, all the different places where you can catch this when the guys come on. But yeah, it's going to be very much easy to access online. It's going to be everywhere. Facebook, YouTube, our alien ancestry. And after the ceremony last year, I'm still kind of blown away by the fact that they caught the massive flash of light. Now, somebody that looks a lot of UFO stuff, a lot of videos, and I'm very skeptical, ladies and gentlemen. Very skeptical. I'm at a loss to really explain how you could get such a full screen flash of light. And then our good friend Donnie, you know Donnie Nacy, he actually says that he remembers where he was at that point in Australia. He remembers that flash of light. I just think it's mind-blowing, dude.
Yeah, it's so interesting in my circumstances, being, you know, a Paleo-American, that I've been fortunate to witness things in ceremonies that I cannot wrap my mind around. I try, you know, I'm pretty skeptic when it comes down to it. You know, I believe, but I'm very skeptic. You know, I'll try to figure out what it was before I'll be like, yes, it's this, you know. And these rituals and ceremonies, they're just, you know, I call it magic with a K, because it's like, how did that just happen? Did I really just witness that? Is this a mass hallucination? Or, you know, it's just too hard to explain. But then that's when you get to the point of where it's like, okay, I believe. I witnessed it. I've seen it. I felt it, you know, so, you know, and I'm fine. I'm okay with it when I share these experiences of mine. Sometimes, you know, people will diminish me and be like, yeah, whatever, you know, but I've experienced it, you know, so I share it because I like it when I run into other individuals that witness such phenomenon, you know. But when you get this many people together, you know, at any time, and you can focus that intention, the possibilities, from my perspective, boundless, endless, boundless, you know, vast, you know, anything could be done. And, you know, maybe this is one of those monumental precipices of where, you know, just enough, you know, what is it called? The 100th monkey syndrome. Have you heard that one before?
I have, yes.
Well, for the audience, apparently there was like 2 islands of a certain type of monkey, and they would go there and study them. And when they went to go study them, they brought them some kind of fruit. And they noticed every time they went to study them that a certain percentage of monkeys were washing their fruit before they ate it. And then they'd come back, and then all of a sudden the percentage increased. Yet on the other island, no monkeys were washing their fruit whatsoever. But back to the first island, all of a sudden they got there, and every monkey was washing their fruit before they ate. And then they went to the second island, and then all of a sudden, all the other monkeys were washing when before there weren't, none were washing their fruit. But then all of a sudden, all of them started washing their fruit, you know. And so this may be a speculation of the whole collective consciousness, that at some point, if we as silly humans can get beyond our id or our ego or whatever it is that's hindering us from our full potentials, maybe we can tap into that ethos and be like, hey, why are we killing each other? Why are we being so negative to each other? You know, maybe it's that, I don't know, lack of a better term, kumbaya moment.
Yeah, it's not that bad, dude. Come to Glasgow, it's not quite that bad. We're not all doing each other in over here. Not yet. Not yet. Not quite yet. But listen, I want to find out what it's been like for you to reconnect with other Indigenous peoples, i.e. Luna, Donnie, John, Wayne as well, we've talked to. What's that been like for you, Nacy? Has there been a familiarity there? What's really stood out for you?
Well, the parallel of our ancestry's lives and existence is so familiar. It was almost like the dominant societies, the empires came to North America and they said, okay, this is how we handle the indigenous, you know, we encamp them and everything like that. And then they got to Australia and they say, you know what, it's easier just to wipe them all out. You know, because interesting enough, you know, as Auntie Luna, or my friend Luna, has shared with me that, you know, the Paleo-Australians, they're considered flora and fauna. They're not even considered like a species of animal. You know, that's how low they were considered by the dominant society. You know, and then finding this out, and especially with meeting, well, going back even more, when I was in the military, I got to go to Perth, Australia. Excuse me. And it was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I've always wanted to go back. And so when I met Luna and John and Wayne and Donnie and we talk and stuff, I'm like, how can we, you know, make this happen again? How can we get Luna or Donnie here to America, or how can I get to Australia? So I'm looking into trying to bring some kind of sisterhood or brotherhood between my people and Luna's mob and some mobs down there in Australia, so we can utilize it to come together. North and South hemispheres meet and discuss these incredible teachings and share them with the dominant society, because it's seemingly more people are susceptible to listening to it, where before, it was kind of dismissed as being something real, but all of a sudden there's like a resurgence in America, at least, about the reflection of the indigenous people. And I think they've become romanticized again, and the nostalgia of the Paleo-Americans have intrigued people, looking for answers, as the same as with Down Under, because I learned plenty of things. And thank you, Luna and Donnie and John and Wayne, for sharing that stuff with me. And again, that's why I'm excited about the boys coming in the second hour.
Yeah, that's going to be really, really good. But when you've been talking with Donnie and Luna and that, is there a lot of familiarity in the kind of the lore, the stories that both your peoples have, or is it kind of quite separated? What how does that play out?
They're very parallel, although they have more of a distinctive men's work and women's work.
Yeah, that's something that's that really I learned that quickly when we started doing these shows. There's a big separation there, right?
Right. Yeah. The Anishinaabe people, they're just to give an example, the Bibi Bato, that means to run. So when you say Giwi Bimibato Nungu Minde, you're saying that entity is running today. You're not saying that man or that woman. All of our verbs, action words, they do not denote a gender. And so we were, a lot of people try to claim or make the proclamations that we were very matriarchal, but we were equalist, that a woman could have just as high standings in a tribe as a man can, depending on what they did for the tribe. And we have a thing that they commonly call the vision quest, that when you go through your puberty rituals and stuff, that you go off for 4 days and you do a fast. And in that 4 days of fasting, you come to the conclusion, after reflection on yourself, hey, I want to be a knife maker. I want to be a bow maker. I want to make drums, or this, that, or the other thing. Or I want to cook. Whatever it is that you decide after that vision quest, that is what you did. And sometimes men would say, hey, I want to stay at the camp and do more of what today we would call women's work. And the same would go the same with a woman, female. She'd be like, I want to be on the hunting parties. I want to be on the trapping parties. I want to, and that's what they would do. So that part I always find really interesting.
When we come back from the break, how about we talk about the Serpent Mound? Because one of the things I talk about with Evan and Stephen are the monuments, the earthworks, the sacred rocks, obviously the artifacts. But that Serpent Mound, that's very intriguing. I've always found that one intriguing. And I know it's somewhere that you know quite a lot about, right?
I know a little bit, fair share of it.
We'll do that when we come back. How's that sound?
Sounds wonderful, my friend.
Good, man. And we've got one more segment to go. And then Evan and Stephen Strong will be joining us from Down Under. And don't forget, this coming 21st of December, 22nd of December if you're Down Under, we're going to be having our Alien Ancestry Sacred Rocks and Artefacts Conference. Take it from there, Nacy. Take us to the break, man.
And so as you're sitting there alone or with somebody, make sure you take the opportunity to recognize the miraculous perfection that is there with you within love, without fear. We're all in it together. So thank you for being here. And hopefully you all can come back after the break and we'll talk a little bit more about this, that, or the other thing, and maybe a little speckle of woo. I think the woo can always be found in one shape, form, if you just pay attention close enough. But we'll bring it if you're ready to listen.
No bison burger there yet, bro, no?
No, still no message. Waiting, though. Yep, medium well with pepper jack cheese.
There we go. There we go, folks. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere. There you go. There is the Wookiee. We are back. We're live. I'm Kev Baker. We've got Nacy, and today we're going down under in hour number 2. After this segment, we'll be joined by Evan and Stephen Strong. Looking forward to it, Nacy.
Oh, absolutely. Only one more segment left.
So listen, dude, the Serpent Mound. Talk to the audience as if they've never heard of this amazing place. What is the Serpent Mound, bro?
Well, in the Ohio River Valley, there is the largest snake effigy in the world, where at its heyday, it actually had different color shale that was carved and placed on it to actually look like a snake. And I believe that it was there as a calendar, like Stonehenge, that it was a calendar system, because the arc of the snake, if you think of the snake and how it moves, the arc of the snake is like this circle, and you would put a post that would cast a shadow within the arc, and that would be utilized as a calendar. So they would denote the equinoxes and the solstice. Also, I believe that some of the smaller arcs would be utilized to do the same with the moon shadow. And so it was like a huge calendar point. One of the most amazing aspects of this is that if you read the latest Graham Hancock book, his first chapter, I found it very delightful, was dedicated to the Serpent Mound. You know, because there's a lot of really interesting aspects, not only just there, but in the surrounding area of it. Allegedly, the last ice age came to the Serpent Mound, but never passed it. And that there's strong evidence that the Serpent Mound has been rebuilt time and time again. So they're still arguing. You know, there's some people that are saying it's 15,000 plus years old. You know, there's my people. I would make the claim that it's well over 50,000 years old, because this was the Anishinaabe territory. You know, the main tributaries of rivers that came from the Great Lakes were utilized by the Anishinaabe people for training. And that the Serpent Mound area was a huge, right there you got the Kaloka, I'm forgetting the name of it, the Kaloka Pyramid. You know, so you have all of these huge monoliths, I guess you could say. And it's interesting that we talk about the Serpent Mound now, because, you know, in the constellations, the eagle or the scorpion, one of its other identities was the serpent. I would even speculate that when my ancestors were dealing with great birds, that at some point that they would shine up the serpent mounds to entice one of these giant birds, because one of the greatest feats of for lack of a term, warriorhood, is to capture the tail feathers of these huge, magnificent birds. You know, and they still do this now today with eagles. You know, because like if you look at the claws of an eagle and you look at the beak of an eagle, you know, they can mess your world up. And if you can get close enough to an eagle to where you can grab an eagle feather, then I would say, hey, kudos to you. Not very mixed feelings about it for the bird, you know, but this is all about ritual and ceremony. The snake to the Paleo-American was not a negative thing. It was, the full spectrum, because a snake will eat another mammal or another snake because that's what it does to survive, so it's not a bad snake. It's not a negative snake because it's just doing what it does, but then the full spectrum of the snake, you can witness the snake and his characteristics and see within yourself possible teachings from the behavior of a snake. Also, if you look at throughout history, we should maybe do a show sometime about serpents and snakes throughout the world. Because,
sounds good.
Yeah, because one of the things also is that, the snake would have a hole where it would go into the ground. So a lot of some of these, for lack of a better term, secret societies or these societies of the snakes, they would go into these holes where they would literally crawl into these holes that would open up into a huge cavern, and then they would teach the magic, and magic isn't, well, depending on the observer, I guess, would denote whether or not magic is positive, negative, or neutral, and to me, it's a no-brainer. If you're causing negativity, then I would call it dark magic or negative magic, but there's magic to where beyond prestidigitation that people are doing incredible feats of healing, weather manipulation, and the such. And so I would even speculate that somewhere near the Serpent Mound, there are underground chambers. And I would even, I'll say it. I would dare to say that actually where the mound itself is, that it is covering up a doorway or a passage to an underground cave system, to where way back in the day they would share these traits of healing or destroying, depending on the perspective.
Now, they done a big ceremony there on 2012, didn't they? Wasn't it one of the Mayans came up?
Yeah, they also, try to have these points of rituals and ceremonies, where you gather at these great monoliths, around the world to have, that intent, to focus the intent. And actually, I don't know if the audience recalls, I was supposed to be there last spring, but, the whole thingamajig was challenging. So we're trying to focus on getting there this spring for the equinox. So we're looking at possibly the ending of the first week. Right now, if the cycle goes as average, then we're looking at the equinox being right after the first week of March. But we'll only know better as we get closer, because you have to do your due diligence and watch for sunrise and sunset and do your calculations on it.
So what other sites really pique your interest over there in America? And they say, what other sacred sites do you have?
Well, the mounds, excuse me, the mound builders, my people were the mound builders, and they tried, there's some that speculate it was the people before my people, but that was one of the things that we did. The Anishinaabe people, when you passed, they would build a nest and build it up in a tree. And this was at a time when throughout North America, there was over 120-foot northern pines from the state of Minnesota all the way to the East Coast. The story goes is that a squirrel could go from Minnesota to the East Coast without having to touch the ground because of the prevalence of trees. So I just totally lost my gap of thought thinking about a little red squirrel, because my friend just told me he was hunting yesterday, and he said he came across tons of squirrels, and they're super fat this year. And so that means it's going to be a cold winter. And so as soon as I brought up the word squirrel, I thought of him saying, oh, it's going to be a cold winter. Oh, come on, bring me back, Kev. What was I talking just before the squirrel? Well, anyway, the Anishinaabe, the mounds, thank you, brain, it worked for me. So the mound builders, they would put our dead up in these nests in the trees, and then the elements would take care of, all the fleshy stuff and everything. And then they would go back and they would collect the bones. And then when they would collect the bones, they would go to the mounds and add the bones to the mounds. And then they would just continue to go around and build the mound up more and more and more. And some of these mounds, after you get past all of the bones of the dead and stuff, you may find even, I guess, what you would call cryptoids, of weird and strange shapes and whatnot, like the giants. Which is funny because my people were considered the giants, that they were over 7 feet tall. The men and the women were over 6 feet tall. But my people talk about giants that were twice their height. And supposedly in some of these mounds, if you dig it up and you go deep enough, you'll find the bodies of some of these giants, because they would be, they're a living, breathing entity, so they also, by right, have a sense of burial to them, to give them like a respect in that existence, But yeah, the mounds, those are pretty fascinating, and you'll find them, all the way from the East Coast to Minnesota, and then down the Ohio River Valley and the Mississippi River Valley, which was the roads for the Paleo-Americans. A lot of time people will say to me, why did you guys build cars and stuff like that? Well, how do you get carts or cars going through all of these trees? When trees are this way and that way all over the place, you can't just easily maneuver a cart. But we would have like dog drags or pony drags to where it was more maneuverable. And then when we really would use transportation, it was the rivers. We had our birch bark canoes, and we used those. We had birch bark canoes that were like 40, 50 feet length, and fairly wide. And we would use those to go up and down the rivers for trading.
Yeah, I remember talking to L.A. Marzulli. He talks a lot about the giants around the Serpent Mound, the other mounds, stuff like that. The Smithsonian, they've obviously got a bad rap over the years, hiding things. How big, pardon the pun, how vast a problem were these giants? Were they meant to be everywhere, and they say?
That I'm not 100% sure. I believe what it was is that they were more of the nomadic, or more or less if they found a cave to anchor up in, then they would stay in the cave, because, they weren't invincible, and so there was sometimes kind of a mutual respect of existence. And it was like, okay, you don't go here and we won't go there, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. So there was that, because there's stories throughout North America about fights with giants. So I would speculate if there was anything that was able to get across the Bering Straits, would be giants, more so than humans, because it's a very treacherous. Even when they say that the passageway was open, it was extremely treacherous. And that's why it's called the Bering Straits theory and not the Bering Strait fact.
Good point, Nacy. Good point, yes. So we've got, another 10 minutes before the guys come on. This is going to be your first time speaking to them, right?
Yes.
You excited?
Oh, yes.
Good man.
I'm more excited about seeing how I can just not be that little boy who wants to just raise his hand up and just be like,
You see, you got to get that under control. You see,
right?
there'll be plenty of time at the end, man. But yes,
Right.
if you're tuning in to hear Evan and Stephen Strong, never fear. I didn't bring you here under false pretenses. No. They'll be here after the break that's coming up, and we'll be getting into the magical rocks. I need to get myself one of these magical stones. And they say, I laugh and I joke, right? That's only my coping mechanism, because I truly do appreciate the power that is contained in some of these stones. And they talk about rings from Lemuria, rings from Atlantis, that are absolutely examples of high technology from the ancient world in our world today. But it's not to be laughed at, these kind of energies and powers that are contained within the stone, is it, Nacy?
Oh, absolutely. And I've been fortunate that I have a little healing stone. It's a stone that looks almost like a perfect sphere. And I've probably shared this before, but there is a calling song that you do ritual ceremony, and you go to the Great Lakes at a certain point of the tide, and then you do this ritual ceremony and the calling song, and allegedly the tide will roll in one of these spherical rocks. And they're used in many different mannerisms. You know, the one I have is for a little boy drum, is where they have 7 of these little stone. It's about, excuse me, it's a little bit larger than a shooter marble. What the stone is, I'm not sure. I've had many occurrences of where I keep it in a leather bag, you know, and I'll bring it out sometimes when people ask of me to do ritual ceremony or anything of healing matters, and that, you know, and when we go to UWIPs or shaking tent ceremonies, we'll bring them there to charge them out or charge them up. You know, I'll bring them out at certain times of the years, you know, to also synchronize them with the cycles, you know, to charge them up in that, you know. But there's total protocol in handling these stones, you know, because like you said, you know, we call the stones, more times we call them the grandfathers, you know, but I think the stones are androgynous, so I just call them the grandparents. And they've been here for a long time. And these healing stones, when you get them off the tides in the shores, that means a stone had to sit there and gradually be chipped away by wiggling back and forth a little bit more and a little bit more, and pretty soon it's rolling a little bit, and it has to be in that perfect situation to where it can just keep rolling around, and next thing you know, it's like a perfect sphere. You know, so you can imagine how many times it takes the tide or the wave to come in and out to create such a thing. You know, and these stones are held in very hard regards. You know, and a lot of times if you go to sweat lodges or different ceremonies and stuff, you'll see little pipe altars, and you'll witness people pulling out these stones to charge them up, depending on the ceremony and whatnot.
Got Christopher in the chat room. He was saying, if I just catch up here, he says, I'm an Ojibwa from Michigan. We are Anishinaabe. Yep. There you go.
Absolutely. You know where we got that word, Ojibwe?
No.
The romanticism is that it meant the way that our moccasins puckered up,
All right.
because the way that we stitch them, they make the top edge kind of pucker up. Maybe sometime I'll get a picture of my moccasins. My uncle beaded my moccasins. I got a pair of very pretty moccasins. But that's not true. The French called us Ojibwe. The English called us Chippewa. But when the French were asked about, who are the Anishinaabe? What are they all about? And he said they basically said they're very friendly. They're very giving. They're open. They're open to everything. But if you cross them wrong, one of the things that we do for someone who harms innocents, we'll take a bear hide with the fat on it and we'll lean it up against the fire so the fat starts boiling and blistering, and the individual that has harmed innocents would get wrapped in this bear hide, and it would make your skin pucker up like you were just roasted. And that's where we actually got that term, Ojibwe. It means to roast till puckered.
It's like man corn. Jimmy Jeans would be shouting man corn right about now.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, the French were like, they're all cool. They're real cool, but just don't, ask the Vikings what happened to them when they tried to make a bigger encampment than what we allotted.
I must
on the
admit,
East
I do
Coast.
like that. I like the whole Viking thing. I can relate to the Vikings, I must admit.
Yeah. Well, our people, we said, yeah, you can have little encampments, and we ask that when you come down the East Coast, that, you use these places to stop and get your supplies and everything, but don't try to settle in. This is our territory, and we understand you need food and supplies and whatnot, but stop, do your shopping, and mahjong. Keep moving.
I like that. I like that, dude. Don't overstay your welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So have you got a special greeting in mind for after the break for this first meeting of the Nacy and the Strongs? I can imagine you've got it all planned out, right?
Oh yes, I was excited about just doing a traditional protocol. I believe I've utilized it a couple times with some of the guests, but yeah, I was excited about doing a traditional protocol in the Anishinaabe Moda.
I must admit,
Anishinaabe language.
over the course of the last year, I shouldn't pick out any shows as being favourites. However, when we have gone down under, in particular when we've had Luna and John and Wayne and Donnie, we've had Jess, we've had Dan, and we've had Evan and Stephen Strong, and I don't know, dude, it's been quite special, I think, the shows that we've put together on these kind of topics in the past 12 months. And I don't think it's any coincidence that we're looking this way. We're reconnecting with the past at a time when we're going through great change right now. It's another weird and wonderful way the world works, they say.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I don't know, maybe at some point we can try to find us some true druids there in Scotland.
Well, please, you need to stop that accent. It's bad. It's bad, dude.
I can't even get that word right.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone call anywhere Scotland. No, man, no. Scotland, and it's just not, nah. It sounds like a land of scooters. Yeah.
Well, my brother, whose name is Scott, when he was younger, my grandma used to call him Scooter Poo.
So that's not a good name. Not a good name.
Right. It was my trigger word for him, though. It was quite enjoyable. The joy of having siblings.
Yes, indeed. Sorry, I was just checking the Skype there. I think we're going to be good to go after the break. So yes, 1 hour down, Nacy, and now we're about to get right into the meat and potatoes, as they say. Boy, oh boy, hold on tight, folks, because we are going to be going down under. And we're going to be looking for our alien ancestry. And we're going to be talking all about the Solstice ceremony. Sacred rocks and artifacts. Yes, indeed, with Evan and Stephen Strong. You can visit their website, ouralienancestry.net. So are you ready for it, Nacy? Are you buckled up? Are you ready to go, man?
I'm ready.
Good,
Get
man.
the break over and done with.
Let's do it. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
I don't know what all the conflict is about. Grab my things. It's time to go now.
There we go. Now let me just try and add in the guys. There we go. Got a little bit breathless there in one of the other segments, Nacy, if you didn't like catch on.
That's
Yeah.
all right. I just do my 1, 2, 3 count, and if you ain't talking, I'm babbling
Thank
some
you,
more.
brother. Thank you. Much appreciated.
It's the least I can do for you.
Let's hope the guys join us now. There we go. Hey guys. There
Hi,
he
you
is,
there?
there he is, there you are. Give me 2 seconds and I'll get your camera fitted in. How you doing, brother?
Hi. Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Oh, doing very, very well. Looking forward to this, man. Looking forward to this.
I'll just get a couple of things.
No
I'll be with
probs,
you in a
bro.
one.
No probs. We've got a couple of minutes. No probs. There we go. We'll be back in a minute, folks. Don't go anywhere.
minutes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we're back. Hour number 2 on today's Freaky Friday. I'm Kev Baker. We have got Kevin Shores, aka Nacy. He is in the house, and we are now joined all the way down under by our good friend Stephen Strong. Good to see you, sir. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Yourself, Kev?
I'm doing very, very well. And may I take this opportunity at the start to introduce to you my Paleo-American brother, Nacy. He's got some words he would like to say to you. So, Nacy, over to you, brother.
Well, thank you. Buju Anin, Nacy Indigenica Anishinaabe, Kevin Richard Shores Indigenica Jaganashi Moog, Makwa Nindunde Minawa Nindogichida, Ki Minawa Gawa Babigani Kag and Dunjiba, Moorhead, Minnesota, United States of America, Nunguminde, Chi Migwich, Gichimanadu, Gani Kana, Pe Gish, Minobima, Ziwe Riyan. Thank you, gentlemen. It's a privilege and an honor to have this opportunity to talk to you guys, and I'm excited to just give you the reins and listen, but thanks for being here tonight, gentlemen.
Thank you.
There you go. Yes, you see, you bring out the best in people and the best of people. What's happening, Stephen? We're getting very close to the summer solstice event. What's going on, man?
Yeah, we are, which is a bit of a surprise for me because when I spoke to you last time, we had no idea it was going to happen.
It's getting there now, right? It's all coming together now.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, it's an ongoing thing, and we're on in a couple of days, and we're just trying to see if we can just round up a couple of million people to join us for this one and see how it runs.
Now, I was mentioning the last one that took place. I'm still kind of blown away by the flash of light that took place at Uluru and all of the pillars of light that were seen around the world as well. Could you talk to that, Stephen? And what do you hope, or what do you think is going to happen with this upcoming event? Do you think there'll be anything measurable on the day, or is it more of a gradual event?
Well, it's an interesting one because I really don't know because, like I said, this only came together in the last 2 weeks. So we thought we were having December off, and we don't know what's going to come out of it, to be honest. I mean, I'll be honest with you, last time I didn't think we'd have the Schumann resonance increasing 100-fold, the flash of light coming out of the rock, the lights all over the place, the coloured skies. I don't know that we're going to get all that. I'm not sure about that because I think to an extent, I remember at the end of the ceremony we did there at the time, Kev, I was thinking to myself, well, okay, I'm sure it worked here, but how am I going to prove it to people? Well, it turns out there is a lot of evidence. We've got plenty of it. And I'm not sure that we'll get any this time because I don't know that we need that, because if you want empirical proof that the ceremony worked, then just go to our website, have a look at the articles and have a look at the film and the photographs we've got, and it's ample. So I really don't know whether those things will happen, or whether less will happen or more. I'm not really sure. Because, like I said 2 weeks ago, it wasn't going to happen at all. It wasn't planned by us. It was sort of something where we had no option in it. But what I can say, if you're looking for results or something definitive, what I can say is we're doing this one that's coming up in about 3 or 4 days. And then we were asked to do one more, which is the next solstice, which is in 2022. It was made clear to me that after that solstice on 2022, there was nothing more to be done. It's finished. And the choice that people have to make about where they think they should be and how they want to go and where they want to go in the future, you've made your decision by then. There won't be an extension date or a a lapse in time where you can finally make a decision. My understanding is there was always meant to be, and we didn't know this at the start, and we didn't know until 2 weeks ago, there were meant to be 3 ceremonies. The first one was to turn the rock on and the magic box. The second one, I think, is to give people strength and a sense of where they're going and a goal at the end of a light at the end of the tunnel. And the third one is the 2 roads are made. You've jumped in the river, you've stayed on the shoreline, and that's it. So I don't know what's going to come from this one, but I do know what comes from the third one.
Absolutely. Now, I was watching one of your videos, and you were with, is it Mr. and Mrs. Hugendijks? And you were putting together all the stones. Could you talk to the audience about these rocks and that guy's story? I mean, that couple's story. I listened to them at the last conference, and I was kind of sat on the edge of my seat. But that guy's been walking the walk for a long, long time, right?
Yeah, he has been for a long, long time. He's been doing this. Him and his partner have been doing this now probably for the last 20 years. They've been on a long crusade. Well, what happened was, look, it's a bit bizarre because the first ceremony was done with elders involved, and they closed the rock down, and we know all the stuff that had happened before when the government got involved and Qantas got involved to try and destroy it. All those things were done, and this was done well in advance. This time round, this is not the same sort of ceremony. It's not an original ceremony this time. It was made clear to me last time when we put the rocks in formation, it was rocks. That's it. Nothing else was in there. It was rocks in, rocks out. This time round, the skulls are going in, the rings are going in, the bone of Nefertari and his object is going in. And what happened, what took place was, and there's a picture right now of the rocks as the formation they'll be in next week. And you'll notice right down the bottom, there's a long sort of green stone, which is a bull roarer that was used in New Zealand once. And what Paul and Phoebe did was they brought in objects from New Zealand, from Australia, from the Dogon, and from America, sacred objects that were placed in different positions around the circle. And what we did was he told me about them before. He spoke about each one. I said, oh, okay, well, that one should go next to that one. So we had planned in advance. I knew where each one would fit into that circle. So that was done primarily to make sure that people understand, no, this is not an original ceremony. The last one was. This is a global ceremony. And we have objects now from all over the world. And we have rings from Atlantis, rings from Lemuria, and we have bones that I'm going to put in from aliens that, well, you know, the no foreign being that doesn't belong here. All of it's going in as in one homogeneous group. So this is meant to be a ceremony with all of the objects, all the different talismans together, and it's meant to resonate throughout the planet. So that's why Paul and Phoebe brought those objects, and it's why we actually introduced everyone to what we were going to do, and that's why they put them in that circle. Now, right now, they're sitting in a box with everything else, all the other rocks that are still with us, most of them in Adelaide in South Australia, waiting to be put on the country. Those ones are in a box, the rest are in the rainforest, the rings are in a different position again. They're all in their normal storage positions, most of which is not in the house for good reasons, and they'll stay there. And then what will happen is on that day, I'll bring them back out, and this time I'll smoke them. I didn't smoke them last time because they weren't put into formation properly. They were just put in so people knew what they'd be like. We'll smoke them up and we'll get them ready. And that will be a different sort of ceremony. And as to what we get out of it, well, last time, leading up to it, I kept saying, I don't think anything's going to happen. And I did say that every time. This time I'm going to say this because I know something did happen the first time. Something will happen. It will work. But what proof we get, I don't know. We might get more, we might get less, and we may get none, but it doesn't matter anymore. If you want proof, we already have that. It's there for you. Just look it up. Go to our website. All that stuff is there if you want it. And that's for those people who still have a rational mind that doesn't shut up.
Now, Stephen,
But
have you
those
had
who
any
don't
kind of,
think
has there been any resistance this time? I remember last time they tried to mess around with the flights, and did a good go at really putting off the ceremony last year. Has there been any kind of obstacles put in your way this time round?
No.
Good.
No, there haven't
Good.
been this time around. Because really, when you think about it this time around, last time I had different original people making all sorts of claims. Some were saying this is definitely going to happen. Some saying it wasn't. Some people were trying to openly work against us in different ways. This time around, it's not dependent on somewhere else and other people with different agendas. So it's really up to us. If you believe that I have some sort of interaction with the rocks, the rings and the skulls and everything else, then fine, join us. If you don't believe it, and some don't, you don't have to. So really, it's a different setup because it's something that we called and it wasn't called by others. So we're not reliant on others. Some people have said, I'm just wasting my time. Well, they're entitled to think that. And I don't hold that against them, and it makes no difference to me. So we don't have the extraneous factors of other people trying to destroy this simply because it's come from us, and it's come from the rocks, and it's come from the rings, and it's come from the skulls, and it's their call this time around. So people either believe it or they don't.
No, I really like it, dude. I really like it. Now, some of these rocks that you've got, talk to us about some of the more significant ones. And has there been any craziness in and around the house while you've had all these rocks there? See, you see, I bet there has. See, I'm not far off the mark. Look.
First of all, has there ever been craziness with the different objects? There absolutely, all of them have had their different moments and times in the sun. I will talk about a couple of the rocks. I brought a few along, and I want to explain, and I'll be doing that on the day. What we're going to do is we're going to talk for half an hour because a lot of people won't know what's there, and we'll introduce some of these players. And then we'll lead into the time when the solstice takes place. And really how that's going to be is when we get there, about a minute before, I just announce, okay, we're stepping away. And we leave the camera on the rocks for the next half hour. And when that half hour is up, I'll just say the time's finished and we'll stop it. I'm not going to give an introduction or conclusion to that because whatever takes place between you and the rocks is your business anyway, and all the other objects. But what I would like to do is explain primarily, I want to show you some of the rocks and their stories that relate to this, because a lot of people may think, well, why is this happening in Australia? And it's quite important that we understand that the reason it's happening here is because there's an Art of Martha saying which says it will begin here, it will end here, and begin again here. And that seems to be a commonality we hear around the world. That this is the place where this is supposed to happen. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to introduce you to a couple of rocks now. And the first one I'm going to hold up is this one here. And I'm going to turn it around, and you'll find that it's partially a meteor. It's come from space, and then what's happened is they've cut sections of it. And what they've done is they've cut this section on top here, which I'm going to try and hold up now. There we go. And in it, it's just a mass of lines, okay? The lines go in all sorts of directions, and what they've done is they've basically just cut it sheer across this rock. And then they've put other sides there, like the rock itself, the meteor itself, and then you've got the bits on top. Now, that particular story, that rock has a dreaming story, and so does another one. And those two dreaming stories need to be factored into this sort of analysis of what's going to happen. And the dreaming story for this rock is very specific. It's about the beginning of life on this planet. And the story goes, and I mean, it's a dreaming story. Some people will believe it and some won't. That's entirely up to you. That a spear was thrown at this planet long, long time ago when the planet was just still rock and it had just formed and was solidified and there was no life there. And on this spear, which was a long spear with a cap on top, was a rock. It was coated in all the elements that make life. And it was thrown from the Pleiades and it landed in Australia. And there's a triangle in the middle, which I'll hold up, but I'm not so sure you'll see it. I'll try and point at it if I can find it. It's where my finger is now. There's a little triangle in there. And that is the point where the spear landed, and that happens to be Uluru. So this particular rock is about the beginning of life on this planet. Now, I'm going to make a point here. This planet, we think it's the Homo sapien sort of haunt. It's not. There were 16 different hominids here about 12,000 years ago, and they all got wiped out bar one, and we'll get to that in a second. So this first rock is about the beginning of everything. The second rock, which is this one here, which has got the marks on this side and it's got the marks on the back, which I'll turn around.
Yeah.
This particular one, we had in our house for quite some time. I mean, it doesn't normally stay in the house now, but it can now. For a time, it couldn't. And for about 2 years, Kano would never tell me about this rock. And then on one occasion, when he was talking to me about the rock and telling me to get it out of the house because it'll kill people, which I then said to Kano, but why didn't you tell me before? He said, well, it's time to know now. Anyway, he told me the story about this rock. And this one comes from Kano's dreaming story about the beginning of, how can I put this, the Pleiadian involvement, the alien involvement in humanity. And what happened was, this was a story went way back. The Goanna was making his way. And by the way, Goanna represents a totem, which represents a group. It represents the Pleiadians, and they were in a ship and they were hovering above Australia and wanted permission to land. And it wasn't given. We wouldn't let them come. And what took place was the eagle and the crow fought together against the Goanna and defeated him. Now, I've got to make the point here. You've got to understand something about this with aliens and us. Everyone seems to think that they're above us and we're below them. That is not the case. We are equal to every other race. And what we have is something, we have one skill to drag them here from all over the cosmos. And that was our ability to use magic, the magic of this planet, and lock into that power. And we used that magic to block the Pleiadians, and they could not land. Then finally, the crow decided this was wrong. They should come, and joined with the Goanna and fought against the eagle and defeated them. And they landed. And then what happened was, as a token of the fact that the eagle was defeated, unlike what we do today when we invade another country, we blow the crap out of it and destroy everything. All that needed to happen was the eagle had to give the Goanna a token, a gift, to acknowledge the fact that they won that battle, and he did. He gave them the claws that the eagle has, and then the eagle gave those claws to the Goanna, and the Goanna took those claws and then wrote his magic on this rock, on two sides here. And he wrote the message of that story about them coming from the skies and landing here. And Kano said this when he closed his story, and I'm only quoting what he said. And if you are a devout Christian, please do not get upset because it's not meant that way. He said that story's permeated the whole culture around the world. And the Christians took that story and turned it into a rock with the 10 Commandments that were written on a rock. This is, it's not the 10 Commandments, it's the message of the Pleiadians and why they came. So those two rocks become focal points in this arrangement. But what changes this arrangement, Kev, is that they're not the only ones involved this time, and I brought a few along that are going to be part of this, and in particular, I'm going to hold this one up.
Wow.
And this particular piece of work Now, I want to make a point. Everything I've shown you so far, I believe absolutely was made on this planet by us. I'm not one of these people who believes the aliens made everything while we sat there like idiots and watched. It's not how it happened. We were part of this. Now, this particular ring, unlike all the other Atlantean rings that were made on this planet, and unlike even the Lemurian rings, and I'll hold up one now, which is this one here, which again was made on this planet, okay? These are made by us. All of the Lemurian rings and Atlantean rings have within them a common component, of which is orichalcum. We've spoken about that before. But this one in particular, and I've got to thank the wonder product of the earth called superglue, because it's been broken 3 times. It is so old. You only got to drop it and it will fall apart. And Evan's broken it. My wife has broken it. Roz, the lady who bought the ring, her husband touched it and he broke it too. And I've stuck it back with super glue and we make sure it never gets broken again. But the reason why it kept getting broken is because its chemical makeup is not like anything else on this planet anywhere. First up, it's claimed to be a ring. Well, there's my finger inside the ring, and I've got to tell you, there's room for about 3 more, and there'd still be room left over. So calling it a ring is a bit of a stretch to begin with because, yeah, it might fit a finger, but I'll let you in a secret, Kevin, ain't your finger on
No,
mine.
definitely not. We were talking about giants and the Serpent Mound before you guys came on, so that looks more like something a giant would put on, if you ask me.
This one's different, but because I did a private work, we did some private work with Mesref, our guide from Off-World, and I asked for information on all of the rings and what we should do with the Atlantean rings, which, by the way, he claims that no one in the cosmos would put on their finger. He wouldn't. He said he wouldn't touch it himself, but that's a different story. But this one is why I brought it out, because this ring is going in the center of the circle. Okay, and the center part has a lot to do. I have 4 cardinal points, east, west, south, and north, where there's 2 of those. But what goes in the middle, and you'll see there's a collection in the middle there with some skulls leading towards it, and there's some bones on one side and bones on the other. But in the center, that ring is sitting in there. Now, the reason is this, that yes, 41.8% of this was never identified by any readout because that object or that metal is not from here. But this particular ring is different insofar as when it was broken the second time, I think by my wife or maybe Evan, I can't remember, we realized when we looked inside that there's actually 2 things to this. There's a cable inside, which is 41.2% iron, that's measured, and 41.8% something that was never mentioned on the readout of up to 100%. That's the middle cable. And outside is this green sort of thing here, which is made up of 7 chemicals, 6 of which were discovered from 1800 onwards, and this was found in Angkor Wat and is 10,000 years old. All of them end in IUM, a couple I can't even say properly. There's rhodinium and there's cadmium, but the big one, the clanger, is the gallium that's inside this ring. Now, the gallium is 6.89%. Now, gallium was discovered in the 1880s, and it is a byproduct. You cannot dig gallium out of the ground. You need to understand this. It is impossible for that to happen. So that tells you the technology involved here is pretty weird. And the only way you can get it is to heat steel or aluminium. And you've got to heat it to over 4,000 degrees and you will get 0.1% gallium. This is 6.89% gallium. That is a massive component. It's the 3rd biggest component there. And followed by cadmium, then rhodinium, and palladium, and all sorts of IUMs that are used for solar cells, for electronic cells, for all sorts of sophisticated stuff that we only just started to do. What we've got here is an outer coat of about 15% of all IUMs, and then inside is a cable. Now, Mesref has told us what this is for. He said this was not made by people from Earth. It was made by us and given to people from the Earth, and it is a way of connecting yourself directly with all aliens. It's like a communicator and an anchor. So because of that, this particular ring goes in the center because it's part of who we were making contact with. This time around, it's not just the rocks. Everyone's involved in that. So that gives you an idea that there's more to this than what we did before. And what I also have here, and because I have sweaty hands, give me 1 second. I have to change this a bit, and I'll hold this up, which I've never shown you before.
Hold that thought, brother. Hold that thought. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go anywhere. There we go, guys. Couple of minutes and we'll be back live. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Freaky Friday, December 17th, with the Woo Crew.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Freaky Friday, second half of Freaky Friday now. And we're still joined by the brilliant Stephen Strong. Check out our alienancestry.net, forgottenorigin.com as well. And Stephen, you were just about to show us something before the break.
Yeah.
Let's dive right back into it, man.
Okay, I'm holding up now, and I haven't actually done this before because it's never been placed in ceremony. I'm holding up the skull that we've got at the moment. And as I've mentioned before, this is the first time we've ever put the skull, the bones of this being inside the ceremony itself. Now, I'll just show you, that's actually it as it is now. And because my hands are sweaty, I don't like transferring my genes into that bone because one day we'll get it analysed. And here is the bones made up as a group. And what you'll notice when you look at it side on, ladies and gentlemen, you'll notice I've got a forehead and it just doesn't have one. Now, we've mentioned this before. We've spoken about these beings, and the reason they're all going in there is because, as I said, this is not an original ceremony. This is a global one. And I just want to share one more with you, Kev, while we've got the time. And this is another one I'm holding up now. And you'll see on the side there's a little cut there. That was analysed by Southern Cross University Analytical and something Industrial Laboratory, and it was run by the head scientist there, Graham Lancaster. And this one's got 24% that's not from this planet, which of itself means it could be important, but that wouldn't mean it was going to go in the centre, which it is. Because again, we had a reading with this one with Mesref, and he told us what this one was. And it's an interesting one because, yes, 24% of the metal in there is not from this planet, but it was made by us. We actually made it. Humans made this. And this was actually found alongside this, which I'm holding up now, which Auntie Minnie Mace gave me, which is a bone. And it was found near the back shaft at Carryong, where you've got the hieroglyphs and you've got a 10-metre shaft, and it says on the cliffs itself that Nefertari was buried around there. Well, we believe this is his bone. And I've had this analysed, and yes, it's a human bone and it's ancient. This one, we found out that he brought. It was his pendant. It was a religious pendant, and we've been told by Mesref that it's not Egyptian, nor is it Atlantean. It was made by the group because when Atlantis fell, some made their way to Egypt to try and remake Atlantis again, and that didn't work out well. And others went towards Avalon, which is France and England, and they were the more mystical ones. Now, when Nefertari came here, he came in 2 boats with his brother, Nefertari. He wasn't supposed to come. We've been told now, we've been in contact with people in Egypt about this, and we know more of the story about this guy. He was considered the great mystic. He was going to be the high priest. And this object, we've been told by Mesref, even though 24% is not from this planet, when it's used in a ceremony, when it's used in a ritual, it guarantees that ritual will work. So because of what we learned from Mesref, this one goes in the centre also because we are doing a ritual and we want the guarantee it's going to work. And 24% of the object that you're looking at is not from here, it's from somewhere else, but it was made by people making their way towards Egypt but hadn't created Egypt at that time and had just fled. This was something they kept as a sacred object. So this one also will be used on that day in the middle circle. So I wanted to show you a few of the objects involved, and they're not all of them because we'll do that on the day itself. So there we are. We've got a circle there. Did I tell you, have I told you why this came about, Kev? This is something I'm not sure I've mentioned to you before.
No, I was going to ask you how this all kind of came about.
I think that's important, mate, because at the moment, all I've been saying is this mob wanted it, but I think I need to explain what happened. Because I've got to tell you, the deal was we were going to do our next online conference in January, which we are, and we're using all original people. Auntie Trudy and Uncle Matthew were going to talk about the very first yarn, the first dreaming story, because this is the last one. But let me explain what happened, because I wasn't doing this 2 weeks ago. We rushed this all together in the last 2 weeks. We weren't doing anything like this. But what had taken place is this. I was looking at a local newspaper in Australia. It's called the Sydney Morning Herald, and it's the biggest selling newspaper in this country. And it's just rubbish. All the papers are rubbish. I'm sorry, but they are. I mainly buy it for the crosswords. But on this particular day, on the front page was a picture, which I'm going to hold up, mate. And it's this one. Now, it's a picture of two people, a young girl, quite a pretty young girl, and behind him is a young man, and they're both 17 or 18. And who are they? They are the school captains of a school in Sydney called Roseville. Now, I can tell you now, mate, that's a high school where it's very bespoke, where you pay a lot of money to go there. And if you're the school captain, mate, I can tell you now, your life is going to be perfect. Everything's going to be great. That's the deal, because you're at a really high-level school. You're the school captain, which she is. And what struck me, it was on the front page of the paper. What struck me was a comment that was made by the people who wrote the article that spoke about this being, there's a relief that a year from hell is close to ending. And that was the beginning. And here's the story and what this young girl said. And I'll try and read exactly what she said about this with the inverted commas. This is the sort of stuff this girl was saying to reporters. Many students just want the exams to be over. We have found a collective sense of mutual exhaustion and a lack of motivation, which has led to feelings of unpreparedness. Most students are exhausted and lacking spirit. Now, I was a school teacher and I had year 12 kids. One year I was a year advisor. And year 11 and year 12 for kids around Australia, because this is like their SAT. They are the 2 years, well, they're the best 2 years of your life. You can drive cars, you can have parties, you socialise all the time, and yeah, you've got to do some studies too. But this is supposed to be the best time of your life. And this girl said she wanted the exams called off, and all the students are done with it. They're lacking motivation, they're lacking spirit. And I thought to myself, I don't care about the needle business and all the other stuff. If this is the cure, I don't want it. Because if this is what we're doing to our kids, this really started to knock me around. Because, as you know, I was a teacher to begin with. So this actually meant something to me because I could visualise kids that I taught at that age. And I remember in years 11 and 12, all they were doing was party and having a great time. These kids were having a miserable time. Most of the time they weren't even at school. And when they were at school, they were socially distancing and had a bloody mask on. All formals were called off. All parties were called off. And they were suffering big time. And I remember getting quite depressed by that for a while. And it was the first time any of this stuff had worked like that. But I thought, come on, get over it. I've got this belief in whatever. I'm going to stick by this. But then I got a phone call the next day, mate, and it rolled me. And the phone call was from a friend of mine. And he told me he was talking to his grandson who's 4. And he's a boy, but he doesn't have an aggressive bone in his body. And they do Skypes because we're not allowed to go to other states in Australia. As you know, Australia is actually the worst place on the planet for this, man. I could do an hour and a half on that, but I'm not going to. Anyway, he's talking on there and they're talking about Lego, and out of nowhere, this kid just looks at both of them and says, I hate C something D. I want to kill it. I want to kill it now. Now, this kid hasn't gone to school and already he's learnt that he wants to kill something because he hates it with every bone in his body. And at the end of it, in year 12, the kids come out and they've been killed. Their spirit's been killed. I remember asking my wife and Evan to look at that picture, don't read the stuff, and tell me what you think she's thinking. Evan said, weariness, and my wife said mistrust. I thought, yeah, that pretty well sums it up pretty well. So this is what we've done. And I looked at this story. Then I heard about the kid that wasn't going to school, was already broken, and the kids that were going to school have been broken by what we've done to them. And I said to myself then, I don't care anymore. If this is the cure, if it's destroying our children's joy and being children, then that is to me the greatest crime there is. We've actually made life miserable for the kids. Now, you know what was fascinating, Kev? I don't know how this got on the front page. And I thought, my God, how did this slip in? But don't worry, mate. I know you're worried, thinking, is this one newspaper that's somehow different? Do not worry. On Saturday, there was a 2-page follow-up article done by a guy called Malcolm Knox. He's their chief correspondent there. And he did a big article to say the parents are suffering, not the kids. I thought, oh, I got this wrong. So I read the article because he's the correspondent. He'd know about this. And he told me that children love it when things change a lot quickly. They can adapt better, but parents can't. And we've basically transferred our emotions to them. But they're fine. They love this sort of stuff. They love it when there's chaos. And I thought to myself, the whole time I was a teacher, the first thing I was taught is when you have a classroom, because when I was teaching primary school, I had the kids for the whole year, you make sure the class is predictable and that there's stability in the classroom. And if you do that to begin with, once kids know what's coming, once it's predictable, they will be comfortable and you will have a great classroom. And I always worked on the assumption, make sure that the kids feel like they feel comfortable and they trust what's going on here. Well, no, that's not true. I was wrong. I'm a bad teacher. I've been told they love it when there's chaos and they love it when everything's falling apart. That guy was lying. That guy had no right to speak on behalf of that young girl. She told us what she said. What I read out was inverted commas that came from her. And she said, we have a miserable time and we don't like it and it sucked the life out of us. So on the weekend, on the Saturday paper, they're trying to cover this up to say, no, the kiddies love it. Kiddies love it. It's just us that doesn't like it. And this was starting to rub with me. And it was that night when this happened. I was sitting around that night thinking, this is just wrong. And all of a sudden I got this message. And this is where it gets hard, because this is why we're not being attacked, mate, because it's just the message I got. You either like it or you don't. But it wasn't the rocks that were talking to me. It was every one of them. And what they said to me was this. They wanted to join the fight and stand by the people who are fighting against this. Now, I want to make the point. I don't think it's in the arm thing we're fighting against. There are many people. I've been to a couple of these walks and many people are vaccinated. They're against the government. They're against that. And they said they want to join the fight. And I said to them, I remember basically saying aloud, no, I'm not using, I know which rocks can kill. And yeah, there's a couple of people in Australia that, if they moved on tomorrow, I wouldn't shed a tear, but I'm not doing it. And I said to them, I don't know what you mean. I can't do what you're asking. I'm not going to be involved in a fight. So what I did was I took to bed with me this bone I just held up and showed you earlier of the no foreign being. I took this rock with me and I took this ring. And I put them alongside my bedside table there and I told them, I'm going to sleep tonight because I don't know what you're talking about. When I get up in the morning, I want proper instructions on what's happening. So when I got up in the morning, they told me what they wanted to do. They wanted to get information. No, they don't want to kill anyone. They want to do the opposite. All the people involved in this will get energy from this. And they'll get energy from the rock itself. They want people who are doing this to become strengthened and energized and give them the strength to continue, because it's their claim at the moment that the whole world has been enveloped in a sea of negativity, and that must change. And what they want to do is they want to ramp up the Uluru, they want to ramp up the Schumann residence, and they want to make this road that we're on now. And I've got to tell you, I can see the road now. I may not have been able to see it last year, but I can bloody well see it now. It's really clear to see. They want to be part of that. But there was a rub in the tail with this mate. They then told me they wanted it to be in the summer solstice, which for people on the northern hemisphere this time around works out particularly well for you. And we all felt sorry for you last time, but when I found out it was 2:59 in the morning, I felt sorry for me. So that's the time it's got to be this year. And then they made it clear to me they wanted to do it at the end of the year again with the next summer solstice next year. And then they said after that, no more. It's done. And what they've said past that point is that after that next one, not this one, but the next one, the line in the sand is complete. And your decision has been made. So what they're saying is this one is for people to get strength, to feel stronger, to ramp up the rock, to make it work harder, for the whole planet to be actually ascending more so. We put more energy into that. The next one is where you make your way to the finishing line. It'll be on the 22nd or 21st of December 2022, and you are judged. And you're judged either as someone that realizes the planet has ascended and will stay at that level. And the question is your vibration compatible with the vibration of the planet? I mean, we know at the moment the Schumann resonance has gone off the register, and that's happening more and more. My understanding is not this one, but the next one, it will stay off the register and never drop down. And it will be literally physically impossible for people in a lower vibration to exist. I mean, every person on this planet right now, this thing that's happening is an externalization of what's happening inside us at the moment. Everyone's feeling something at the moment. Sometimes they feel empowered, sometimes they feel overwhelmed by negativity. That's all part of this deal. And it comes to a close in a year and a couple of days, really. And after that, I remember when I wrote an article about this on our website, my wife said, you've actually used the phrase 3 times, you've changed it around, that this is when humans vacate the planet. And she said, you want to take them off? I said, no, I don't. I want to leave it there because really I want to make the point. This is what they're telling me. These next 2 ceremonies are the last 2, and the third one, which is the third of 3, which is the sacred number, all at the solstice, all aimed at Uluru. The third one is the one where the planet itself takes over. And then it comes down to whether you yourself are capable of living. Now, I do not know what happens next. I really don't. Look, I don't know whether that means that everyone who doesn't make it lives the rest of their life here, finds it miserable, dies, and when they're going to reincarnate, they incarnate elsewhere because this planet is no longer a kindergarten, it's a university, and it will be a focal planet. What happens here for the rest of the cosmos? What is happening here resonates everywhere. And that's why the aliens have come and been here for all of this time for this one event that began at Uluru last year and finishes there next year, as it should. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what they told me this is about. And the reason why all these objects are here, because they're calling in everyone now. The aliens are part of this, have been part of this for such a long time. They've got to step back, but they now know that this is entirely our game now. And all I can say is this. Mesrev did say that it will be brutal and ugly leading up to, all the way up to that event, and it will be next year. I remember when 2000, the last year ended, everyone said that was a year from hell. This year is going to be much better. Last year, I went to Uluru. I didn't wear a mask. I ate where I wanted. I never got tested, and I went anywhere I wanted to go. That wasn't that bad a year by comparison. This year, in Australia, I don't know about the rest here, but this year has been much worse, and the next year will be worse again. And that's the deal. And Mesref has made this point. This is a gift that humanity has been given, but it's a gift you've got to earn. It's given to every person that's placed on their lap, but it's up to you. Now, what I can say, what they made clear is for the ceremony coming up, the one we're doing in a few days, of course, of which you guys will be doing with the sun. We'll be doing it with the moon. They made it clear they want you to lay your spears down when you become part of this ceremony. Now, people might think, well, no, I don't carry spears. Well, actually, you do. They're inside your heart. And what you've got to do on that day is you've got to try and make sure for the whole of that day that you do not entertain negative thoughts. And one of the things I'm saying to people is on that day, do not say that word. And if it's in your head, get rid of it straight away, because that word only has negative connotations with it, and it will drag your head down. You have to clean yourself up on this day. I put it to you like this. I play tennis, and I'm playing at a very high level, but not the level of Roger Federer. But if someone told me one day I was going to play him in a match, I think I would warm up before I played him. I might need a lot of warming up to get ready to play him. Well, I'm going to say to you, you're playing Roger Federer in a spiritual sense. Don't come with your racket 2 minutes before and start swinging. Get yourself ready in advance. Put down your spears, put down your negative thoughts, and prepare yourself. And I've said to people, it's good practice. It's good practice, because the year that follows, you go back to being human every day if you wish. Have your moments where you get upset and angry with people, but then overcome it as quickly as you can. Because you're going to be judged not on where you run in this last race. I don't know who gets through the finishing tape, but you will be judged on that day. So on that day, which is the end of next year, you have to have your whole body clean and your soul clean on that day, ready, all dressed up with your best suit, your best internal suit. You can wear the crappy clothes I do all the way through and it doesn't hurt you at all. Then you're ready for this. So this, to an extent, is like a dry run for the major event, which happens next year. But the dry run's very important, because what it will do is give people the strength to continue over the next year. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what they told me they wanted. And that's what they told me during the night. They told me quite a few other things. Some of it was quite amazing. And I thought, my God, that is a piece of revelation. I'll remember to tell people in the morning. And unfortunately, I didn't write it down. And that's what happens with these dreams often. The stuff you get, you should have a pen and paper with you when you're doing this. I didn't think of doing that. But was made very clear to me is this ceremony will work, and it'll work for the people who do it. And they need it. It's needed right now, because this is we're not in a great place. But here's our chance, part one of the equation, to actually do something. And I want to repeat something that I use a lot. And it's a line from an actor that I actually quite respect, and his name is Keanu Reeves. And he was talking about this change. And he made it very clear to people at the time. He said, there is a change coming. Everyone can feel it. And I think you'll find that most of the people that are doing this right now have felt it too. Everyone's feeling something. A lot of people are talking about the fact there's a change, but they don't know about this. And he said, it will not be economic. It will not be political. It will not be military. It will be spiritual. And the spiritual will lead, and all the other aspects will walk behind in abeyance. And the spiritual will lead from that point on. So that's what this road is about. And I want to share with you something that really sums up how simple the choice could be if you thought about it. I remember 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting at Ballina, which is on the far north coast up here. Ballina has a population of about 12,000 people, and there are about 5,000 people gathering together. Some had needled, some hadn't, and they were all against the same thing, right? They were marching against the fact that the governments have taken control and this is wrong. And while we were sitting around, a gentleman by the name of Gary Hughes came up and tapped me on the shoulder and said hello. Now, I worked with him as a teacher in Moree when I started this equation way back. And I remember at the time, he was a bloody good teacher. He made the kids laugh. They liked him a lot. He was a great teacher. He would have done, over the 45 years he was teaching, he would have done a lot of good things for a lot of good people. And he told me what happened. He was 2 weeks from retiring, and he and about 8 other teachers were called into the principal's office. And they were told, all of them, leave the premises. You've got half an hour to collect your stuff, get out of here, you're not welcome, you're fired. And then he turned around to Gary and he spoke to each of them individually and said, now, Gary, in your case, you were going to retire in 2 weeks. You won't be retired. You've been sacked. But I have the unfortunate news to let you know, and all of you people here, your long service leave that was taken out of teachers' pay over 45 years so they had something to retire with has been forfeited. You no longer get your long service leave. That's around about $350,000 that's been taken off him by the government because of the fact he didn't want to do a piece of medicine. Now, I want you to think about that for a bit, and I want to make a point, and it leads to something, and it's this, because quite recently, one of my friends was talking to me. She actually, her parents were at Auschwitz, and she wrote a book about their experience there. And she said, do you realise that in 1935 in Nazi Germany, they had more individual rights?
Oh, no, we're on the break. We're on the break.
Okay.
There we go now, brother. I know you have to go after it was an hour today, so listen, I'll keep telling people how to get to the website, get to the live stream, but thank you so much for today, man.
It's my pleasure as always, Kev. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for being part of this. We do appreciate it. I know you're back
man,
on this
I feel like I honestly feel like I'm part of something a lot bigger than me, you, and everyone that's taking part. It's pretty epic, dude.
This is it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Stephen. I got a million questions for you, but it was quite enjoyable listening to you, and may you have great fortune with your endeavors, sir.
Thank you, mate. I hope we do, and I hope everyone comes to join us. And remember, we're making the future.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
As my ancestors would say, Ape Gish Mino Bima Ziwe Wian. Toodles. Well, they don't say toodles. I do.
Stephen, thank you very much, man. I'll let you get back to it, bro, okay?
Okay, no worries, mate. And thank you for being with us. And great to talk to you as always, mate.
Always. I'll get in touch with Evan later, and we'll organise our next one. I'll catch you later, man. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.
There we go. Now, people may have noticed or may not have noticed, but I've been kind of struggling with the breathing tonight. I'm going to draft in all the way from Australia to help us, Nacy. I am going to bring in Luna. First of all, how does that sound? Does that sound good to you?
That sounds fabulous. I can't think of anyone else better to join us in the last hour.
Okay, and I will add in somebody else. We don't need the cameras. We'll be all right without cameras. Let's see. There we go. There's Luna. There we go. There she is. How you doing, Luna?
I'm good. How are you, Kev?
I've been better.
Yeah, it's hard times for us, all of us at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there I am. I'm on phone. You caught me like in the deep end.
Hey, I thought, well, with Nacy being here with the topic we're on, I thought, well, I'll reach out. I'll see if Luna wants to join us or not. I thought you would.
Yeah, because I wasn't going to, because I'm making Christmas biscuits right now.
Oh, nice. Right, we'll be back in a minute, guys. We'll be back in a minute. Here we go. Shove on some tunes. Then we'll get back into it. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Kev.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, hour number 3, and we have got a change of cast now. We're joined by Luna from Down Under, and we've got our good friend Jules as well. And of course, Naysay is here. So Naysay, I'm going to let you be the master of ceremonies. How does that sound, dude? What did you make of what Evan was saying, man? Oh, sorry, Stephen.
That was fantastic. Like I said before, you know, any opportunity to get a bunch of people together and focus intention for positivity, hey, I'm on board, you know. And what a better way to top it off than bringing in part of the disco family of Jules and Luna to get some intentions focused and share, because we care for positivity.
We sure
So
do.
how are-
Nosey. G'day, Nosey. How you going?
Miss Luna, it's always a fantastic opportunity to talk to you again. You know, my heart goes with you on your challenges that are arising, the ebbs and flows of everything. And Jules,
Algorithm donated $50 through Super Chat to help with the price of O2. Heal up and pace yourself, friend.
Oh, Elgo.
Thank you very much, Algo. Thank you.
Yes, and you can find Elgo on YouTube, Elgo Rhythm. He has some pretty interesting conversations, and he opens up the line to get your opinion, as we do periodically. And we have to apologize because last week the phones, there were some challenges. And so we'll absolutely try to get that open in the future so you can join us also. So, Luna, what was your thoughts on the show earlier with Steve?
I was listening intently and excited. He hit a lot of the points. What he's saying is true. I felt like typing in the chat room, shh, you're giving away some of the secrets, but I figured that it's time to give away some of the secrets because they're for everyone now. So, yeah, what he was saying was spot on, and I wanted to tell you, so I'm really glad that Kev asked me to come on. When he said at the end about the spiritual spear, I got all excited because I think some of you might have heard this, but me and Donnie had dreams not long ago, and they were similar. And I just wanted to tell you so you get an idea about what they were saying about the spear and the spiritual spear in your heart. So for my dream first, I knew this time was coming, and in my dream it looked like a big wall of energy. And it was kind of darkish, not dark black, but darkish. And it was coming towards me, and I was prepared, and I was out in the country. I had all the fam there, and I had a spear in my hand. And as this wall came towards me, I felt a little bit of fear, and I raised my spear like this. And I went to thrust it, and as I did, I felt something inside me say, no, no, don't. And as I went to thrust it, a baby dinosaur came out of the wall. And I'm like, whoa, I nearly killed it. And I felt such remorse and compassion for what I nearly did. And I understood that when these times comes, it is the utmost importance to get a hold of my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts, and make sure they're all loving, just like Steve said. So that was my dream, and I woke up right at the point where I was about to spew this innocent thing, and that's what it told me, don't get angry because you're going to hurt innocent things. I thought, rightio. A couple of weeks went by, Donnie rings me up and goes, sister, I had a dream. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, it was the time and the war was coming, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. And he said he had a piece of wood and he threw it at the wall because he was a bit afraid too, and the wall split open and all these little puppies come out. And it was similar to mine as the innocence. So what's coming, don't be afraid. It's beautiful. It's an innocence that we haven't seen for a long time. And don't confuse strength with something that's bad, because something can be really strong and it can make you feel afraid because of the immense power of it, but it doesn't mean it's negative. So that's my bit for the moment.
You know, one thing that I say a lot is the only enemies you have are the ones that you create. because if you're going to validate the negativity of another person towards you, then more sense you're creating that enemy. And it's difficult sometimes for us to look at the similarities of another entity. Just the fact that we are existing in this miraculous time, that should be enough for the similarities of that existence to be like, okay, you live, I live, how do we live together? And I'd like to go to Jules. What did you think about Stephen tonight, Jules?
Oh, they say I'm gonna have to catch the replay. I actually just got in from work. I've been home long enough to strip off the makeup and get comfy, and here I am.
Well, thank you in your busyness to join us today.
But no, I've been following. It's fascinating, and there is definitely a positive change coming. A change is coming. It's positive if you intend it to be positive. If you're willy-nilly and don't think twice and easily fall into the negativity, it's going to be bad for you. Just keep positive thoughts, positive intent. And we are creators. We make our own reality. With positivity, we can raise the vibration.
Well, if the difficulty is that getting to the negativity, if minimally we can have a positive attitude through it, definitely helps. That's one of the reasons why I always say share the giggles, because it's incredible how just a simple giggle can initiate, that happiness, that positivity, and we're going through tough times, and as an Indigenous people, and I think Luna could concur with this, we've been going through tough times for a long time. And I agree with what Luna said earlier about it is a incredible moment for the elders from around the world of these paleo people to share these tools, these stories, these legends, these myths, whatever it is that can help raise the vibration and bring us into positivity. What do you say, Luna?
I agree, and I'll just add to what's happening now. Creator reminded me that when you heal, it's not always pleasant. Like you think, yeah, I'm going to heal and I'm going to be better. But during that process, there's a lot of pus and stuff. Like any sore, there's pus and scabs and tenderness and ouchies. And at the moment, we're all on rapid healing on our own, in each in our own lives. Things are happening. And to see the positive in what's happening, remember that to heal, you got to get the pus out and the scab and it hurts and ouches. And if you're just patient and your time passes, you heal really, really well. So we're probably all facing our little challenges right now. I know I am. It's like they're testing me real good now.
I think to add to that, Luna, I obviously had my bout with the COVID, which knocked me for 6 anyway. Jules, you know the feeling, you've been there too. But
Yes.
then at the same time, I've had a very, very close friend in Canada and another individual as well who offered to do quantum healing techniques. Now, I thought nothing else of it. I'm into that kind of thing. I like listening to that kind of woo. I do think there's something to it. So I gave these people permission. I said, you do your worst, do your thing. And it's only just the other day it kind of dawned on me that I've been kind of really bad for about a month or so now. And I'm actually wondering if this is me having to purge everything out of there before I can get that healing that has already taken place. That makes sense, Luna?
Yes, it does. It does, brother. That's what happens. Even when you do a fast, nice I can say this, but I've had young girls come to me and go, I want to cleanse my body. And I'm like, right, just drink water, eat clean food, give them the parameters of what to do. They come back a week or two later and they go, oh, my skin's terrible, my hair's terrible, this is terrible. It's like, just please wait, that's all the toxins coming out. And then if you wait just past that bit, then all their skin clears up, their hair's not, and it's with the lungs. I have lung problems too, not as bad as you, but Kev. But when it builds up, you got to cough it out. you know, and you've got to get it out. It builds up and you get it out, and that's just how it is. Like the pus in the soil, you've got to get that pus out. Healing takes time. It's not an instant thing. There's many aspects to why you got there and how it is, and there's many aspects to healing. There's emotional healing, physical healing, mental healing, spiritual healing. And to heal properly, you've got to do all them levels. So when we get sick, we're not only fixing our bodies, we're fixing our thoughts, our emotions, and we're talking to our spirit and making sure that everything gets back into order. And over the last couple of years, we've all been shook up. It's like we've all been shook up, and it's like we've been made to progress. We've been made to look in. We've been made to heal. Everyone's gone, I need to get healthier. And we've all done our little bits towards that. I've noticed with my own thing, as I've progressed and healed spiritually and emotionally, I've actually gotten a little bit sick because of the heaviness of the emotions on my body. And you've got to learn, that's where care and kindness comes in, not just for you, but for others as well, as we're all walking through this process together.
You've had a heck of a year as well, Jules, right?
I have. But in hindsight, it's been a fantastic year, and a lot of things were put in perspective to me just about a year ago, just chatting with Luna. Luna is amazing. She's awesome. And I have not seen you in a while, Luna. You look fantastic tonight.
Thank you. I'm on.
Yeah, I was joining with Luna, and I have learned a lot about myself and applying what I have learned to my daily life. Luna has helped raise my vibration. And it's fantastic. My friends support me. We are raising vibrations, but for me, we're also sharing each other's lives. We're a support unit. I mean, having that love and support, it definitely goes a long way to help keep that vibration up.
Yep, and you'd be proud of me this week because I have been gorging the original series of V. It's been on our TVs over here. And of course, you had your big moment with V not long ago. Tell the audience what happened.
Well, in the world of COVID, virtual conventions actually do exist. A couple of weeks ago, there was a V convention online, and I got to talk with Mark Singer for a couple of minutes. And how it works is you basically buy your autographs and stuff, and it's shipped out, and it's signed, autographed, and it comes back. And I got my digital snapshot of me and Mark Singer chatting together, so it was pretty cool.
I like it. Yeah, definitely.
It's always exciting when you can mark something off your list that you've been wanting to do for about 40 years.
Absolutely. Were you a fan of V, Nacy? Back in the day. He's eating his bison burger now, is he? Oh, he's still there. There you are.
You're right. The bison burger did arrive. But I know here Luna's praising me about fasting and chowing on bison burgers. But yeah, V was a favorite. I remember the original series, and then I watched the reboot series. And even with my children, we're revisiting the reboot series because I wanted them to describe to me. And like Jules has shared before, you know, it's relevant to what's going on today.
Yeah, when me and Nana Girl were doing this show, I did some research, and I thought that I knew a lot, but I found a whole plethora of information, things that I didn't even know about V, on how basically how it ends isn't how Kenneth Johnson, who is the creator, how he wanted that to end. I mean, he basically, his concept is that in the first miniseries, when they're reaching out and they send the signal, well, flash forward 20 years, the signal is actually received by a group of insectoids called the Zeti. And the Zeti basically come because they hate the visitors. So they're coming to, just because they don't like the visitors, the Zeti come. But then the humans actually find out that, okay, so we've asked the enemy of our enemy for help. that's not necessarily a good thing.
No, you're right there. You're absolutely right there. So with this, I like to kind of mix and match the kind of fictional world and reality. But we mentioned the Pleiades there as well when Stephen Strong was on Luna. You've spoke to us about the Pleiades as well. I got a tarot card pulled last night and it had 7 stars on there and our local star. My question to you is, do you think there's any outside influence happening right now with the changes that we're going through? Stephen talks about the channeled information from Mesrith. What say you, though?
It's always been happening. It's just that we're noticing now. It's always been happening now. Well, people that know a bit about my culture is that it's always been there for us. It's just a natural thing. Other cultures have the same thing, and there is different types, you know, some for and against. We're even taught about when we're walking in the bush, be careful of those that don't like us. But there's always been those that do like us, and there's always been those that guided us, and there's always been them from home, as we call it. So there is intervention, but like anything, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can give a man a thought, but you can't make him think. It's up to us. It's up to our hearts and our spirits and our minds to decipher what's going on there and listen to what's happening to guide us. There are those of us that will speak it out, but you really need to find it for yourself. Stephen can say it, I can say it, Johnny can say it, and the others that we know, Naysay's mob can say it, but you still got to find it inside yourself for it to come back out. And it flows in and then flows out again. When it starts to flow out, it'll start connecting with everyone else, and we're on the way.
And do you think the timetable that Stephen gave us, is that something you'd agree with the next year or so? Yeah,
in a rough frame thing. I spoke to Naysay about this. With our peoples, we don't have a clock, a calendar, like, you know, it's going to be this day, this time. We get ready. We know when the time's coming. We feel it. We get ready, and we just wait. And when everything agrees, because it's an agreement of all things that makes it all happen. When everything's at agreement and it starts to happen, then we do it. We don't actually have a time and a date. We can just roughly say that because that's like a modern time thing. I was asked a question the other day when on my round table why I chose that subject that I had that particular day, because apparently the planets were all lined up and it had to do with the subject. I said to the person, it wasn't like I planned it, I felt it out. I asked Creator, and it just came, and it just happened to be the right time and place, and that's how we do it. We just follow our feelings and our thoughts and listen. We encourage others to do it too, and I know it can be hard in a crazy world like we have today, but I think things are becoming more apparent for you to actually see where the stepping stones are, and more people are talking about the others, and a lot of it's telepathic. And I know some people freak out and go, oh, that's not true, but it is. It's really true. And a lot of people at the moment, because the energy's raising, they'll be feeling themselves become more intuitive and more telepathic, and probably even see more in the skies, because it's pretty active at the moment.
We're kind of lucky jewels, right? Because we get to hear the conversations between Naysay and Donnie and Luna. And are you starting to pick up on these kind of the telepathy, the magic? Because I know I've started recognising it a lot more in the time that we've had the Discord together and things, you know?
I have. Months ago when we were talking about the black man's telephone, it actually does work. And about 20 years ago, a friend of mine was telling me that something similar to it, and her family is from German descent. But no, so basically, how I know it works is I have a friend of mine that lives out of state, and I was thinking of them. And I got a message that said, "Hey, I just saw this cardinal. It's like it didn't fly away. It wanted me to like stop and look at it." So I was like, okay. And it was like, well, that was me. I was thinking of you, and the cardinal is the state bird of Virginia.
Wow.
So, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, the Bush telegraph, it does work. It's not always like mind to mind. Sometimes if you think of a thing, that thing will kind of intermediate and it'll come into fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely attest to it with the spookiness that Nano Girl has visited on me over the years. Like, the instant that I'm sitting there worrying about something, it'd just be a message out of nowhere. And that's, for me, I mean, that's confirmation of what you call the Bush telegraph, right? Like, Luna?
Yeah, there's different lines, depends what you call them. But it works, yeah. And that comes back to what Steve was saying about getting yourself right. Because if as we increase this telepathy, so to speak, right, and it's different ways of using it, you want to be right, because if you got an angry person on the other side of the phone, so to speak, ringing you up and abusing you, we don't want that, so you got to be right, because it can cause chaos.
So is your mob picking up on the same changes right now then, Luna? Is it a common thing throughout the mob?
Yeah, I often talk to Donnie about when we were kids and we hear the aunties and uncles and what they used to say to us when we were kids, and now it's all coming to fruition. And back then it'd be little weird stuff, like one day they'll be doing this, one day they'll be doing that, and at that point in time it's like, yeah, sure, like we're so we live like white fellas now. But to my surprise, we're actually seeing it. Yay! It's actually really happening. Like, it's all happening. Believe it or not.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing then?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Like Steve said, our spirits, all our spirits, yours, Jules. Hi, Jules, by the way. I didn't say hello to you in the beginning of the show. Naysays, others listening, others in the chat room. Your spirit knows we've all been waiting for this time. It's like we've done all our struggling, we've climbed that big mountain, we're all waiting for that sun to rise, and we're all standing there watching it. It's happening. I'd love to tell you things about what Steve was talking about, the last ceremony they did in the light on Uluru, but I'm kind of restricted and I don't know what I'm allowed to say there. What I can say is, yes, it's right, and there are those that are watching it and contributing to it that we don't even know exist. So it's on point.
Oh, like that. Naysay, are you going to lead us into the woo in the final segment?
Oh, I'm still here. I'm just kind of nibbling a little bit and listening, but I can't concur. Transmuting the negativity into positivity or minimally neutralizing it is not always the easiest thing to do. Sometimes life is easy, but sometimes it's hard. And just finding that attitude, that to me is the biggest challenge. And I do appreciate Jules and Luna and Luna's round table, because we get the opportunity to gather and share our intentions and share our thoughts, and it brings on critical thinking, because I bring up the metaphor of the circle, and then the center of the circle is the challenge. And if everybody gets on the parameter of the circle and looks at the challenge, we get many perspectives of the challenge. And so we're going to have a better choice or a better understanding when we move forward for the challenge. So bring it on, because life is exciting.
Bring it on. Yes, indeed.
Yep. The dying is easy. We're all going to do it eventually. That living is the hard part. But when you're living and you surround yourself with positivity and wonderful people, it definitely brings a smile to the face.
Yep. And we've got one more segment to go, and then we will be handing off over to Brent Thomas on the paranormal portal. But yes, this has been awesome today. We've had Nacy, we've had Stephen Strong. Now we've got Luna, we've got Jules. It's turned into a KBS family roundtable. Yes, indeed. And without these people here today, I think I probably would have had to turn off the show after the second hour. So I want to give a big thank you to Nacy, to Luna, to Jules for having my back. I tell you, I'm a very, very lucky guy, very blessed with the people I've come into contact with, from the authors all the way to just your ordinary people. I'm telling you, we've got it all going on here. We'll be back after the break, so don't go anywhere. No, guys, honestly, I can't thank you enough today.
No worries. I'm gonna just grab some.
I thought I was going to have to turn off the show after hour 2, but then I thought, well, Luna's out there. I could see you out there. I think Nano's, her light was on. I'm telling you, I was going to reach out to everyone. I wasn't going to let us be scuppered. Here we go, guys. Here we go.
Well, I'm going to use the opportunity of the break to take a big old bite of this bison burger.
Nice. Get it down, you.
Yes, damn.
Oh, there we go. It's a very sad Wookiee. because we're going into the final part of today's broadcast. Yes, indeed. What a different Freaky Friday this has been. We had hour 1 with myself and Nacy. Hour number 2 with, I tell you, guilty pleasure. I love Stephen Strong. Just love him. He was here in hour number 2. And now we're joined, we've still got Nacy. We've got Luna from Down Under. We got Jules from over the pond. I'm telling you, we've got one segment to go. Nacy has got his bison burger down him. Nacy, where do we go from here, man? Yeah.
Oh, it is so good. But you lead and I'll follow, my captain. The endless opportunity of woo. Well, here's a question, Jules. Have you experienced any woo?
Well, Jules is absolutely, she is abundant with woo.
I have a lot of personal woo. Long story. I was, a lot of you know, I mean, it's no secret. I was working at Starbucks for years. I left and I wasn't sure. And I pounded the pavement, and I actually landed 2 jobs. I had to pick between 2 jobs, and I wasn't sure. So I came in one day when I was counting down the register. It just so happened that day we had a customer come in, and he cleaned out his car with all of his spare change, and there was about $20 of change in the tip jar. So I was sorting it out, and I was putting it in the register, converting it to bills. When I got to the bottom of the tip jar, there was an angel coin. And it just so happened that the day before, I had an interview with a person, and her name was Angel.
Whoa.
So all throughout that week, I had, you know, those certain tests you have to take for employment. I had a couple of those, and I was actually sitting there at the clinic getting ready to do the urinalysis. And I had this coin with me. I carried it to my other interview that I had that week, and I was going to give it away because I was never meant to keep it. And it just so happened that I lost the coin, but I walked into Starbucks at the time, and I knew that I was going to be leaving. I opened the door. The first song that I heard, literally it just started, was Frank Sinatra's New York, New York. I mean, opening the door, and the first words I heard were, "Start spreading the news, I'm leaving today." And a week later, I was gone from Starbucks. I ended up going and working for Walgreens for about a month. Didn't work out. Long story, they completely used me. But when I was in my doubt of this isn't working out, just so happened that that day one of Angel's friends reached out to me, and I'm now experiencing the second half of the Angel coin, and I'm still finding odd things that are like, this is so out of place, but it's totally for me. The first time I took the trash out, no grass, but it was nothing but clovers and shamrocks. I see all these fantastic sunsets from work. I can stand outside and look, and I can see the planets, the stars. And it just dawned on me that it's all purple. Purple is my color. I'm an Aquarian, always gravitated to purple. And just ironically, I'm ended up at FedEx wearing purple.
See, these are the weird little glitches and signs that the Matrix gives us.
And of all things, lately I've been seeing ladybugs. I took out the trash one day at work, and I walked into a swarm of ladybugs. I was cleaning my stock room yesterday, hauling out boxes that we were going to need. Ladybugs. Rehomed about a dozen ladybugs in the past 2 days. And I didn't realize until I was yarning with Luna and Nacy and Dami, ladybugs are a symbol of balance.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
It makes sense for me. I mean, again, I have a lot of personal woo. Everything about me can kind of be related to the number 2. I am so weird, and I'm not self-obsessed. I just know a lot about myself because it helps me function. It's just one of those things. I know more about myself. It helps me function. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I know when I can give more. I know when I should take less. But it just so happens that I was born the 33rd day of the year. The second month, the second day, I'm the second child. Birth year breaks down to a 3. The social security number breaks down to a 3. My driver's license, my phone number, everything breaks down to a 2.
Wow.
And then by knowing about myself and what 2 is, I struggled a lot in my past when I embraced the duality of 2, because with 2 there's always something else. There's always the good, the bad. There's always the light, the dark. There's always the end or the or. So when you find the balance in between the middle, seeing the ladybugs at work, it's like, oh, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, you got to, I see you nodding away there, Luna. You got to pay attention to the universe, right? Because it's got weird ways of telling us when we're onto it.
Yeah, funny, I'm listening to Jules, and I'm thinking in the past few weeks, I've been going through stuff and all this stuff in the world's happening. I've been balancing plates virtually. But the animals that have been letting me know similar thing, like the ladybug, when I was at my parents' house, it was raining, and there's this tree frog, and it was singing in the room next to the window where I was staying. And I went out in the daytime, I was looking for it and couldn't find it, and I just said, thank you for your beautiful song. The next night it was raining, and I went out the back, and it was on the door, and it jumped straight on my head. And I took it off and put it back on the glass, and then it jumped straight on my head again. And I took it off, put it on the glass, and it jumped on my arm, and I took it off, and it jumped back on my head. So I just went, all right, let's let it jump on me. But that was telling me now I look at it, it was cleansing my mind, because frogs like cleansing, because it has to live in pure water. Any change in the water and it will die, it won't breed there or whatever. So it's like an emotional cleansing. I was cleansing my mind for me. And then another day, I went to my T-shirt drawer in my bedroom and pulled it out, and there's a lizard sitting in there.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are you doing in here? And it's like, of all places to be, walking in the front or back door, yeah. But in my drawer, like in the bedroom, how could I get in there? But that was all my totems, and that's the animals telling me they're walking with me right now. I've got support in people, I've got support in the animal world, I've got support in the spirit world, and that's how it just shows itself. Like Jules is saying, mine aren't, I don't look into numbers and that, Jules. Like maybe one day we can have a yarn about that and we can numberify my life. But as far as the animals and things like that, those connections go, certainly happening, as well as timing. And because I'm balancing all these plates at the moment, my timing, I feel I'm a bit clumsy and my timing's out, and I was worried about it. But as I've walked through the last week or two, they keep assuring me everything's on perfect time, and I'm telling you it is. And when you get flustered in that and you think maybe it was too soon, too late, whatever's happening in your life, it's on perfect time. So.
Yep. I agree. I mean, for the longest time, and I still don't know my solemn purpose for being here, and maybe a lot of us, our purpose is to just be. Because even by being, we're a massive support unit.
Yeah, but that's what you're supposed to do. You're just supposed to be. While you're being, you're here right now in the moment being. As soon as we start worrying about what we should be, or are we being enough, or whatever, we start to move away from who we are, and our shine diminishes because we're over here or back there in the past or way in the future that hasn't even come to us yet, or somewhere else. When we're here now, we are just being, and that's what be who created made you be, just be. We're like automatic things, we're all set up and we've all been activated. Just go with it. And when it's hard, just remember those things. There's a lot of tools you can do. You can do something creative. Go for a walk.
I think you're right. I think sometimes we can overthink why we're here. Sometimes just being here. That's it. It's just part of the the lesson, as I like to look at it. You know, I think we've all got something to learn while we're here. I think we're also here to help others through their learning experience as well. Didn't always look at the world that way, I must admit. As I've got older, step back a bit, it's become more obvious that's what it's all about. Because when you're younger, you always think you're going to be this, you're going to be that, you're going to, you know what I mean? But as you get older, I think you start to find a bit more of that balance, Nacy. Or am I just getting old, Nacy? Am I just getting old?
Well, you know, as we were talking earlier in the first hour about my ancestors and how they would do a vision quest, you know, and if you ponder that whole experience, you're taking 4 days to sit there by yourself and ponder your existence. How often do you think the average American takes to just sit down and ponder their existence? You know, maybe a couple hours during yoga or something like that. But imagine 4 days of doing it. I would make the strong assumption that after 4 days of sitting there and doing introscope, self-reflecting, that you'd come up with a pretty good game plan of being whatever. You know, that you're just being, and in that existence of being, do what you enjoy. Do the positivity. You know, but we get caught up in the social conditioning of America, for an example. You know, we have to have a house with a white picket fence and a dog and a cat and a car and 2.5 kids. And, you know, we're conditioned to set these standards that more times than not, you can't live up to them. You know, so reflect upon yourself, because it's a miracle. It's a miraculous opportunity when you look into the mirror, you see the collision of electromagnetic waves that are happening, and your oogly googlies take them in your optic nerve and your data in your brain, neurotransmitters and receivers, they extrapolate what you're seeing, you know, and it's a miracle you're seeing, you know. So to me, you know, maybe I'm just a simpleton, but it's like a no-brainer, you know. And my English to namaste is thanks for being, you know, because more times than not, another entity will teach me something about myself through our experiences, through our relationship. And like Jules is talking earlier about witnessing the synchronicities, this is an additive to the whole experience, because I do believe that the universe will provide for you the signs. And once you recognize the signs and you be in that moment of those signs, you see the synchronicities, and you can utilize those for directing your course of action, hopefully positive.
I would agree with you on that. I mean, it's so, I mean, there are a lot of synchronicities, and sometimes lately it's not even, for me, it's not even synchronicities. I definitely, because I've grown accustomed to chatting with everybody so frequently, it's like I can definitely sense when you're feeling down, when you need a virtual hug, I'm there. And just when you got to yell and get something out, I'll go on deaf so you can scream and get it out, and then look at you and say, "Are you okay?" Yeah, and then we just move on.
Absolutely.
You know, they say we have a similar tradition where the men and women at a certain age, once you know how to get your food and how to get water and make a shelter and all that, they send you out by yourself, but it hasn't got a time limit on it. You can be out there for weeks, you can be out there for a week. It just depends, and you do it by yourself. But what it does is it gives you a different view on yourself, because you're on your own. You've got to rely on yourself, otherwise you're going to starve or die of thirst or heat exhaustion, or, you know, something wrong could go wrong really bad. So it teaches you to tune in, listen to yourself, look for the signs, because they can lead you to water, all sorts of things. The spirits will tell you where food is, like all sorts of things can happen. And
I think we should all be made to do that kind of thing. I've always thought that, you know.
We don't now.
No, certain age you should. That should be like one of these kind of rites of passage, you know. You go out there for however long it is. I've always thought that, because I think we've become far too complacent. And it's not a bad thing. It's not what I'm saying. I mean, I enjoy the luxuries we have nowadays. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we've become disconnected from who we truly are. You know. And we could have a Carrington event tomorrow. We could lose all of our electricity. Can you imagine the mayhem? I mean, I'd be pretty lost, I've got to admit, and that's with my army training and everything else. But imagine the billions of people who would just be absolutely lost. And there's no reason for it apart from the fact that we've forgotten who we are.
True. Absolutely true.
That was quite profound for a Friday night, Nacy. Bloody hell, man.
Well, I was going to say, if you think about it, you know, back in the day, you know, and of course, back in the day, they had their challenges too. They just weren't technologically as advanced as we are, but we still have somewhat the same base challenges. We just have a stronger technology than before. But back in the day, as they say, you know, families helped each other. Families had huge houses, and usually there was, you know, up to 10 people living in the house and supporting each other. You know, and we're designed to be within communities. You know, a prime example is when you're looking for something, is it easier to look for that thing by yourself or with a group? You know, so to me, it's just basic logic that we're supposed to be together. We're supposed to, you know, getting that intention of that focus of this is our community. This is our unity where we have decided to live together in a harmonious way, whether we call it rules, regulations, laws, or whatnot. You know, if there's just that basic, just basic, as simple as you can get, respect. And that's how I sum up my ancestry, the Anishinaabe. It can all be explained in one word of existence, and that's respect. When you respect everything, how can you go wrong? And then if you're able to sprinkle a little bit of love on top of that respect, more power to you.
I concur.
So we've got about 10 minutes left. Jules, I'm going to come to you for if you want to give a message to the audience right now. Been a different Freaky Friday, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I've actually really enjoyed it. I think the people, the audience out there, have enjoyed some feminine energy coming onto the show as well. So with that in mind, I think anyone listening to this show right now, we're pretty much in the same mindset. We see these big changes coming. We're all going through them. What would you say to encourage people, Jules?
To not give up. Tomorrow's a new day. I mean, everybody's going through it. I myself included. I mean, we've right now things seem okay, but I didn't get where I'm at without going through a lot of pain and turmoil and trouble. I mean, and from that and yarning and meeting new friends that have become family, I can't describe the words. I mean, it's just a pure delight to spend time with, for lack of a better word, my elders. I have learned so much from Luna and Nacy and Donnie and everybody that I've chatted with. I mean, we're all a big soul tribe, and the tribe's coming together. And now that we know we're a soul tribe, we just gotta keep pushing through.
I like it. Luna, over to you. Put you on the hot spot now.
Yeah, same message, stay strong, hold. Yeah, like Jules said, just keep walking through. I won't muck around. Change can be difficult. We are facing change on many aspects. It can be difficult, but it can also be very beautiful. So embrace it and be aware of your own growth. Don't just dismiss it as you haven't got time to smell the roses. Time to smell the rose. Stop, smell the roses. Be aware of your own growth. Embrace the change in the world. Support each other. We got this.
Mm-hmm.
It's everyone.
I like
Exactly.
it.
And when you can't walk any further, let your friends and family pick you up and carry you along.
Yeah.
Very well said. Nancy, what would you add to all of this, bro?
He's enjoying his
I'm like, I want you guys to just keep yapping so I can keep nibbling on this bison burger here. Sorry, I'm just being selfish right now. But I agree. We talk about this all the time, and this is what's so pleasurable about being here Freaky Friday with the Woo Crew, because we take that opportunity where we just explore the woo, and we kind of we let the real world behind a little bit, so we get these 3 hours to just yarn, chat, discuss, share our ideas, our opinions about the woo, because it's going to be there whether or not we're noticing it. And it's going to continue on. On average, the cycle usually occurs the way we're taught, but there's always that anomaly to the cycle. So something might happen, something might not happen. It's definitely happening beyond your scope because you can't witness what's going on around the world. So it's something is always happening. Now, whether or not you're adding to that happening or if you're subtracting from that happening, that's your choice. We all have these choices. And when you get the opportunity, like doing Freaky Friday, or you get the opportunity to be on the round table with Luna Saturdays, tomorrow's going to be a little bit earlier. I can't remember what time it is before Kev Unleash is happening. I believe it was, but Luna can share that with you. But when we have these opportunities, we get to share. We get to share our energies, our thoughts with each other. And it's a wonderful opportunity to just kind of step back away from the rat race, because every now and then you just need a breather, whether it's binge watching something or reading a book or exercising or, whatever it is that you need or want to help you just decompress, because we need that. The tea kettle that's left on the stove, is just going to keep whistling and whistling, and possibly the pressure could cause something dramatic to happen. So you got to release that steam. You got to release that negativity, because you don't want to just sit there and brew in it.
Exactly.
Yeah, well said. Now, let me remind people then, coming up on the 21st, it's Tuesday the 21st of December at 10:30 a.m. New York. And that's 7:30 a.m. in LA. It's 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon over here in the UK. And it's 2:30 a.m. down in Sydney, Melbourne, Australia. 1 a.m. Uluru. Folks, it's a free event. I seen somebody on one of the posts during this week saying, more grifting. Grifting? It's a free event. You just have to tune in and watch it. And we invite all of you to watch this on our alien ancestry.net. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be on this YouTube channel. And I just want you to be a part of something big. I truly believe, after what we witnessed with the last ceremony, I'm not saying that there's going to be something absolutely happens there and then while this is all taking place. But I do believe that there's something to the timing of these ceremonies right now. There's something to the part of the cycle that we are in right now as well. And we've gone through this before, folks. We might have forgotten about it. We might not have retained much knowledge about the times we're living in now. But we have gone through this before. And we win. We come out the other side. So you have to stay positive. Try and keep your mind while all those around you are losing theirs. That is the hard part. Try and keep on some solid ground. And just stay positive. Stay positive. So on that note, I want to thank Jules for everything. For being a huge part of everything we do at KBS over on the disco as well. Luna, same goes to you. Huge part of the community. She's like a pillar of the community. They all are here. Jules, Nace, Nano, ZX, all of you out there. Love you to bits. I am out of here. Wherever you are, make a TFR and Denny touch that dial.
Toodles.
There we go. Let me shove on some music and then we will get out of here and I'll have a quick word with you guys before we go. There we go. Thank everyone for tuning in today.
Wow, 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 wow. Freaky Friday with the Woo Crew, December 17th, 2021.